that I wander with thee. Flowers and fields seem alive with thy joy. All that I own to thee I've given. Now I sing in thy love, I am free. Father, now that I dance in thy name, birds and animals share in my song. All of my sorrows, all my merriment, join in music to set hearts aflame. Father, now that I wander with thee, flowers and fields seem alive with thy joy. All that I own to thee I've given. Now I sing in thy love, I am free. Father, now that I dance in thy name, birds and animals share in my song. All of my sorrow, all my merriment, join in music to set hearts aflame. All of my sorrow, all my merriment, join in music to set hearts aflame.
So good morning once again. My name is Bhagavati, and this is Ramesha, my husband, and we're very happy to be here with you this morning. So now I'd like to read from Rays of the One Light by Swami Kriyananda, and these are weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita. The topic for this week is, Can Man See God? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. There is a saying in chapter 1 of the Gospel of St. John that would seem to respond with a definite no to the question, can man see God? The saying is, no man hath seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he hath declared him. Many saints, however, claim to have seen God. If we ask then, can God be seen, rather than can man see God, the answer is yes, else those saints lied, and the scriptures themselves lied. For Jesus also said, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. The point is, it is not man, this human body, these human eyes, that sees God. God can be seen only with spiritual vision, with the eye of the soul. As the Bhagavad Gita puts it in the 11th chapter, thou canst not see me with mortal eyes. Therefore I now give thee sight divine. Behold my supreme power of yoga. With these words, Hari, the exalted Lord of Yoga, revealed himself to Arjuna in his infinite form. Paramhansa Yogananda, in Autobiography of a Yogi, describes the supernal experience in words more readily comprehensible to modern minds than the poetic phraseology of the Bhagavad Gita. The chapter, An Experience in Cosmic Consciousness, is one of the most inspiringly beautiful in all mystical literature. Here is a brief excerpt. An oceanic joy broke upon calm, endless shores of my soul. The Spirit of God, I realized, is exhaustless bliss. His body is countless tissues of light. I saw the divine dispersion of rays pour from an eternal source, blazing into galaxies, transfigured with ineffable auras. Again and again I saw the creative beams condense into constellations, then resolve into sheets of transparent flame. By rhythmic reversion, sextillion worlds passed into diaphanous luster. Fire became firmament. I cognized the center of the Empyrean as a point of intuitive perception in my heart. Irradiating splendor issued from my nucleus to every part of the universal structure. The creative voice of God I heard resounding as Om, the vibration of the cosmic motor. This, so the great masters aver, is what God is, and this also, they insist, is what we are in our deepest reality. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
I would like to share a few thoughts about this reading that Bhagavati just read. And before I do that, I would like to do a little experiment together. And the day hasn't been long yet. It's only 11 o'clock, a little past 11. So let's see if we can just go back to when we woke up this morning until now. And let's try to think about, okay, what kind of thoughts did I have this morning? What kind of state of consciousness, or states, because there might be more than one, have I been in since I woke up until now? Just do it. We can do it. Think about it. And what kind of moods have I gone through? What kind of mood am I in now? What kind of perceptions I've had of the world around me, of the people around me, what kind of opinions or ideas I've had in my mind about any given circumstance I've been in or any given person I've run into since I woke up until now. We'll just take a few seconds just to think about it. And then I'm going to ask you a question. Why is it that we cannot see God now, in this very moment? What is preventing us from doing so? So, I was preparing for this talk this morning, and that was my main thought. But I had a lot of other secondary thoughts that were not quite as uplifting and and inspiring, and that for me explains why I can't see God right now. Because, and it's not that I am being punished because of my thoughts. It's just what my mental environment is. You know, I can blame God for not wanting to come right now because it's not the most beautiful, clean, uplifting state of consciousness and mind that I've been in. And this is, I'm not saying this to make us feel guilty or anything. It's just to realistically look at, okay, we're all here because we want something. We probably got to the point in our lives where we understand that, you know, there's got to be something more to life, and we want to know more who we are, where we're coming from, and what our source is. If we've been on the path for a number of years, we might know by now that there's really nothing out there that can really give us happiness, and therefore we know that what we want is God, period. And all our lives, or we try at least to have our life revolve around that thought and that achievement. We want to achieve freedom in God. And so we do things, we meditate, we serve, we try to be the best that we can be, honestly and sincerely, to achieve that goal. But there is certain conditions that have to happen in our consciousness for God to come to us so that we can really see him. And those conditions, Master Yogananda, when I talk about Master, I mean Paramahansa Yogananda. Yogananda was asked several times, when, by his disciples, when will God come to me? When can I see him? And he gave different answers depending probably on the person who was asking the question. But he said things like, when in your mind, the only desire that is left in your consciousness is for God. When you don't want anything else, when you long for God as a drowning man longs for air, this are scary things. Then is when God will come. And this is like, oh my God, I don't want God bad enough. And so this is why we do these things that we do. This is why we meditate, because bit by bit we are clearing up, cleaning our mental home and our consciousness from other desires that we have to understand, and not just understand intellectually, but make the experience and realize that, yes, I still have those desires, but I know from experience that if I try to fulfill those, even if I manage to fulfill those desires, I am still not happy. A few days ago, a great pop singer has passed away, Whitney Houston. I don't know if you heard the news. And it was one of those things that I grew up listening to Whitney Houston a lot. And I was reading through her lives because I kind of lost track of what she was doing in the last years. But it was very interesting. She had fame, money. She was very beautiful. I mean, she had all the things that most people out there think are the answer. And yet you could tell by reading what she went through, especially in the last years of her life, that she wasn't happy. And it's kind of a nice platitude to say, oh, wealth doesn't make people happy. Okay, well, we know that. We heard that many times. But do we really know that? I mean, do we really know that if I had a bigger paycheck, I wouldn't be happy? It's something to ponder and to realize that, we have our energy locked up in so many different directions, in so many different desires, big or small, but so many things that we still think we need to accomplish in order to be happier and more fulfilled. And that energy is occupied doing other things. But what Yogananda said is that we need all our energy, all our heart aspiration, all our thoughts to be directed to God in order for God to come to us. God is, in the Bible it says God is a jealous God, and that's what it means. It's not like he's jealous. Oh, who were you out with? It's not about that. He's jealous because he wants us 100%. Yogananda said many times that God possesses everything in the universe. He created it. He possesses our bodies. He possesses everything that you see. But there's only one thing that he does not possess unless we choose to give it to him, and that's our love. And that's the great secret of the universe is about that, is we cannot be free until we choose consciously and willingly and joyfully to give ourselves completely to God. And it sounds fairly easy, doesn't it? it's a work of lifetimes, but that's what needs to happen. And the little experiment that we just did, there's a funny story on the autobiography that is kind of similar to the experiment we just did about remembering what we did this morning, our state of consciousness. It's a very short excerpt, and this is Sri Yukteswar talking. Another chemist once crossed sword with Sri Yukteswar. The visitor wouldn't admit the existence of God, inasmuch as science has devised no means of detecting him. So you have inexplicably failed to isolate the supreme power in your test tubes. Master's gaze was stern. I recommend an unheard of experiment. Examine your thoughts unremittingly for 24 hours, then wonder no longer at God's absence. And so, so the question, can man see God? First of all, we have to understand, okay, who is seeing what? Because I think that if we took a survey in the room and we asked everybody, if God came to you, what do you expect to see? What would happen? What is it? You know, if you go to Rome, you see God depicted in a certain way with a long beard and is it the Sistine Chapel? Because I didn't see it. Okay. And if you go to India, you see all kinds of, forms of Divine Mother and Durga and Kali and all kinds of images. And if you go to other countries, you see other images. But so, first of all, what do we expect to see? Because maybe God has already manifested to you in your meditation, and maybe that's not what you expected to see or hear or feel. Or one of the most amazing things that I remember when I read it the first time, I was like, wow. Master said, God is the joy and peace that you feel in meditation. That was quite a concept to me, because I grew up Catholic and I never thought of God like that. I thought of God as the old man with the beard, and he's got a son who has long hair, and and for me, God is a feeling in your heart. It's like, wow, that's quite a concept. But God manifests himself to us all the time. Whenever we do something that, like we help somebody, or we do something that we know is right, isn't it true that we feel a sense of expansion in our hearts, a sense of joy, we feel freer inside? That's a manifestation of God. That's God telling you, okay, this is good. Keep going that direction. That's a good one. Isn't it true that when we argue with somebody, or when we want absolutely things to go our way because this is how I envisioned it to happen, and if it doesn't happen that way, I'm not happy, isn't it true that we feel afterwards a little bit like, I don't know, what I feel is like my heart is like shrinking to a little peanut, and this is God telling us, again, manifesting to us, himself to us in a way, in a subtle way, telling us, we could do better. And so we have to realize that it's not these physical eyes that can see God. We have to develop another sense, because the five senses, we know by now, this chemist knows pretty well, the five senses can't isolate the supreme power. We can't find God through material means. We have to go deeper than that. And this is what the teachings of yoga and meditation are for, to go deeper and deeper and deeper into ourselves and develop the ability to develop intuition. This is what Yogananda said. Intuition is the power to know God. We cannot know God through any other means. We have to feel God in our heart. When we did the meditation earlier, I suggested to call on God, focusing at the spiritual eye, and then feel his answer in the heart. Yogananda said that the spiritual eye is like the broadcasting station, and the heart is the receiving station. So we can broadcast our prayers and our love to God through our spiritual eye, but it's in your heart that you can feel his answer. And so by doing that, it's like focusing on both points, you can really establish a circle of, it's like a conversation with God. It's a non-verbal conversation, but it's a calling and you get the response. And then you go deeper into it as you meditate longer and longer. And you can go into a cycle where it becomes one. There's no separation anymore between the broadcasting and the receiving. It's all one. You're just there. And that's just the beginning. And this is not the long bearded man. This is just the feeling of joy and peace in your heart. And God is visible at all times to our soul, but unfortunately our soul is our souls right now are not identified with our true nature. They're identified with our bodies, and this is why we have egos. Right now we operate through our egos mainly and not through our soul. And so the ego is like a veil in front of our eyes that prevents us from seeing reality as it is. And this is why God is trying to manifest himself to us directly, but he can't because of our egos that are blocking our vision. And so what he has to do is to come to us through the back door, through, letting you know when you're doing things right, and letting you know when that wasn't as good as I was saying before. So we can develop the ability to see God only when we withdraw our consciousness and energy from the senses, which, as we know, are not able to make us perceive God. We have to withdraw from that, and from there travel up the spine and place our focused energy and consciousness here. Yogananda said that when we focus at the spiritual eye, usually at the beginning, what people see is darkness. There are some people who see more than that, but most people, I think, see nothing. It's just darkness. And he said that there are two forces that are two forces of delusion, of Maya, who prevents us from seeing the spiritual eye. One is actually casting a veil in front of our eyes. The other one is scattering our energy. So it seems like, that's not fair. I mean, we have these two things preventing us from seeing the spiritual eye. But he said that by meditation and by right actions and serving and doing the things that we know are right, we decrease the power of ego. And those two forces also weaken, and then the spiritual eye, bit by bit, can be opened and revealed to our sight. And when that happens, that is when our consciousness can travel through the spiritual eye and see God. This is when we actually see God. The two main manifestations of God are light and sound, and they're both the same. There are two manifestations of the same reality. So Master said that when you pray deeply to God and you don't give up, he said, keep praying even when there's silence, when there's no answer, when there's darkness, keep praying. And then you start to hear the sound of Om, you start to see the light, and the sound of Om actually turns into words, and it starts talking to you. That was very interesting to read that. It's like this hum all of a sudden becomes words. And, and God can talk directly to man. However, and woman. However, because there are these forces that are trying, this delusion, this Maya that we're in, that are trying to prevent us from reaching that goal, we need the help of people who've done the job before and can take us there. This is why masters incarnate and bring witness of the fact that, yes, God can be known. I mean, if you think about it, at least personally for me, I need to constantly read spiritual books, listen to talks, to keep myself inspired, because we live in an environment that is totally not conducive to spirituality. I mean, there's all kinds of restlessness around us in the world, and if I don't try to stay connected with these truths and these teachings by listening to inspiring talks, reading inspiring books, I end up bit by bit kind of almost forgetting that, oh my God, yeah, the reason why I'm here is to find God. I don't have another goal. It's so easy to lose track of that. And so these great masters have to keep coming back to show us what is possible and to keep reminding us what is possible. Jesus came 2,000 years ago, and his message has been diluted so much through the centuries that other masters had to come and remind people, hello, remember that thing I told you 2,000 years ago? It's the same thing. And this is it. Let me tell you again, maybe with slightly different words because you might be more able to grasp it at this time and age, but it's the same thing. So let me remind you again. Let me show you how great you can be. And it's not that it's not like Jesus performed miracles to show, oh, look at me, I can touch this guy and now he's walking and he wasn't walking before. It's just like, oh yeah, now I remember I am like that too. I just have to realize and to remember. And this is what they come back to do. And thank God they do, because it's so easy to forget, even from one day to the next. I have to read Whispers from Eternity to remind myself that, oh yeah, this is what I'm here for. So, the avatar, all these masters are avatars. Avatars are free souls who are not compelled to come back to incarnate on earth by their own karma, but they are compelled, they come to help us. There is just no other reason for coming back than to help us. And Master, in the autobiography of a yogi, talks about the avatar when he talks about Babaji, and he says that you can recognize an avatar has some distinctive signs, and one of them is that an avatar doesn't cast a shade. This is shadow. Thank you. A shadow. That's a very interesting one. So there's a funny story of a disciple of Yogananda once. He read this and he thought, oh, okay, well, the next time I see Yogananda, I want to see if he has a shadow. And so at that time, Yogananda was in 29 Palms. He was working at his writings. And this disciple was staying at a cottage nearby. And so each morning during his meditation, he would think of this and say, okay, today I'm going to see Master, and I'm going to look and see if he has a shadow. And so he would go and talk to Master, and then he would go back home and say, oh, God, I forgot to look at the shadow. So the next day, he said, okay, today I won't forget. So he went, and Master came out, sunny day, came out, talked to him, and he was there again. And then he went home, oh, God, I forgot to look again. And that went on for like 3 or 4 days in a row. And finally, he said, okay, I think Master is playing a trick on my mind here. So finally, I think it was the 5th day, he went again and said, for the whole time he was walking or driving to Master's place, he kept saying, look at the shadow, look at the shadow. So he wouldn't forget. So he got there, and Master, it was a sunny day, Master came out, and in that moment, a cloud went. And so he said, oh, God. And then the shadow moved, so the sun came out, and so he looked, and there was a shadow. And then as he was looking, the shadow shrank. It got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and traveled up Master's body. And he looked at Master, and Master was smiling. And after he understood, of course, Master is an avatar. It's not like he was doubting it, but a little bit he was doubting it. But Master, after that story, after that day, in the latest edition of the autobiography that he revised before he passed away, he actually changed it to sound an avatar might sometimes might not cast a shadow. You know, just you know, it's not like we're thinking about our shadows all the time. But these teachers really come and they show us the incredible potential that we have, and we need these reminders constantly. And this is why every church has Sunday service. What is Sunday service for? It's just to invite people over, read inspiring things, and remind them of why they're on the spiritual path in the first place, why they're searching for these truths in the first place. So I would like to end with a little another experiment. This is a day of experiments, but this is a very nice one that we could all do together if you want through the week. And it will help us, it will train us to see God when God will finally decide to manifest himself in all his glory in our consciousness. This experiment will help you be ready for that. All saints declare that when you find God, you see him everywhere, in everything, in everybody, in every situation, good or bad. So let's try this. For the next week, let's make a conscious effort as we leave our homes in the morning after our meditation. Let's make a conscious choice that every person we run into, everything we see around us, every situation, everything is God. One of the most beautiful things that, most joyful practices that I do here in Los Angeles when I go out, because there's so many people and it's so overwhelming for me. But one of the most inspiring things is to consciously bless every person I see. And it's so beautiful. When you do that, all of a sudden, the people around you don't seem so stranger to you anymore. You kind of feel a connection right away. It takes a split second. And so also situations that are apparently negative because maybe something really bad happens, or somebody tells us something really nasty, or I don't know. But let's try to really see that also that is God coming us to a certain form to teach us something. There's nothing that comes to us by accident. We have attracted it one way or another. That might be hard to accept, but that's what it is. It's for us. If it's coming to us, it's ours. It's nobody else's. It's ours. So let's make an effort to label that as G-O-D. Everything that comes, that's God. and it's coming for my own good, not to punish me, not to crash me. It's coming to free me. It's coming to uplift my consciousness and make me a better person. There's a story of a woman who lives up at Ananda village. She has been a disciple of Yogananda for many, many years. And she's a sweet woman. She's now an elderly woman, but you can see her sweetness and servicefulness. In fact, her name is Seva, which means service. And many, many years ago, I heard this story recently, but this happened many years ago. There was a woman living there. She was kind of new, and she was one of those people who Master said often, yeah, the new ones come and they try to reform us all, and they don't know that they are the ones who need to be reformed. But anyway, so this woman was like that, you know. She was always saying, everybody. She knew what everybody was supposed to do, basically. You should do this, you should do that, this. And so one day, Seva was talking to her, trying to make her understand, no, this is not really the right way. Let me show you. And she was, no, you don't know. And finally, Seva gave up. And said, okay, you do it your own way. And another disciple was nearby and listened to that conversation and told Seva, she goes, but she was totally wrong. Why did you let her get away with it? You were right. And Seva said, you know what? I didn't come here to be right. I came here to be free. And so that's the kind of thing that we need to remember. All the circumstances, all the situations that seem like, why is it going like that? But it's just coming to help us get out of the ego. It's not really that important. The situation itself, it's not that important. What we become and what we can transcend through the circumstance is what really matters. It can be the most horrific situation, and yet we can still find that power and strength in us to rise above it, and with God's help, of course, because it's God that does it all anyway. So we can tap into that and ask God, ask Master, help me see this as you see it. Help me see this situation as you see it, and help me get the most out of it. Let me really help me to rise above it and just be freer and freer and freer, and get out of this ego that is really bogging us down. So let's do the experiment, and let's try to see God everywhere, and enthroned in every face, in every object, in every situation, in everything, every sound, even this. And then see what it does to you. God can speak through a car passing by if you want to hear it. God can speak through leaves moving in the wind if you want to hear it. Otherwise, it's just noise if you don't want to. It's up to us. So let's choose to hear him instead of hearing other things. And let's choose to see him in everything and everyone. God bless us all.
So please take that which you would like to offer and place it in your right hand, and pray out loud with me. Divine Mother, we offer to thee the fruit of our labor. Bless this offering, that it may serve as a channel of thy light to truth-seeking souls everywhere. Om. Peace. Amen.
So for the music right now, we have Keshava on cello, and Peter will sing.
Okay. This is In the Spirit. It's from Swami Kriyananda's oratorio, Christ Lives. I guess that's all I have to say. I was caught up in ecstasy. 'Twas a day sanctified by God. There he showed me the truths of heaven, truths which all seeking him should know. How the soul made to live in freedom can reclaim its eternal right. How the night born of our delusion can be fired blazing with his light.